good morning or good afternoon, depending on which it is. Make sure as you go through these problems, which again is your assignment for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday to be completed, that you're paying attention to this. You guys did a problem like this in the investigation last week. Make sure you're paying attention to when you're finding that describe the walk and you're talking about the linear equation, that you're noticing what's happening. Is it increasing or is it decreasing? So your slope or your equation as you write this should be a positive or negative depending on what's happening. The time difference, notice in this one, is a little bit different than this one. You're also missing a value in here. Your beginning is always at 0. So I know it in this one, but I don't know it in that one. So you got to think about what that's going to look like. Calculating the missing values then is based on your equation that you did, or maybe just some simple add or subtract in the math. The meaning of the value then is when they each have that same value. That's what we're going to get into in the next little piece. For this driving example, this seemed to be kind of a sticking point last time you guys had a problem with this. So you're talking about, here's Flint, and then the goal is to get to the bridge. So this movement from Flint to the bridge is a positive forward motion. If someone is at the bridge and driving back towards Flint, sorry, that's not very straight. That's a negative motion. They're going the wrong direction, or they're driving backwards or returning. So make sure when you write your equations that you're thinking about what direction they're going, because that's going to affect their slope or their rate. One of my favorite parts about this book is when they talk about real world meaning. Real world meaning is forcing you to think about what's the label that's going to happen. When you're talking about slope, you're talking about miles per hour, feet per second, dollars per day, things like that. So when you're talking about real world, that's what I'm going to be looking for. Not only do you know what this number means, but what's the label on it. So make sure you do that. Then based on that, when you do these calculations, then your answer should be in one or the other label that's given in here. An inverse equation, this is a cool math term that means it's the opposite equation. So when I'm writing an inverse equation, I'm undoing this to write it in an opposite way. In our problem solving unit, we talked about how to isolate the other variable. So now that's what you're trying to do here. So make sure when you write that inverse equation, you're following SADMEP, not PEMDAS, to do that. And then when you're describing what's happening, think about, again, those labels. How does that affect what's happening? Instead of feet per second, it could be seconds per feet. And that's what you guys had to do in the instruction or the introduction when you were talking about that person driving their car based on miles and gallons.